Scotland on a high and Wales to ring the changes. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. Okay, so this game is on Saturday, 11th of February in Murrayfield. Kickoff is at 4:45 local time. The last six between these teams. So last year in Cardiff, Wales 20, Scotland 17. 2021, Scotland 24, Wales 25. 2020, Wales 10, Scotland 14. 2019, Scotland 11, Wales 18. 2018, Wales 34, Scotland 7. And 2017, Scotland 29, Wales 13. So in recent years, it's been pretty close between the teams. One score, or one converted try, just separating them for most of the games. Wales have a bit of, the advantage in terms of how many victories they've had, but this is an improving Scotland team. And the bookmakers believe that too, because the odds, so Scotland are 12-5 on favourites, Wales are 5-2, and the draw is 25-1. Now, onto the teams. So Scotland backs remain unchanged. So we have Stuart Hogg at fullback, Kyle Steyn on the right wing, the midfield of Hugh Jones and Sione Tuipulotu. Left wing is Duhan van der Merwe after his heroics last week. Was it going to be anybody else? Finn Russell at 10 and Ben White at 9. Into the forwards then, so we have Pierre Schoeman at loosehead, George Turner hooker. Xander Fagerson comes straight back into the team at tight head. He was out injured. Richie Gray and Grant Gilchrist are the second row. And in the back row, Jamie Ritchie, Luke Crosby and Matt Fagerson. Onto the bench then, we have Fraser Brown, Jamie Batty, WP Nell. He drops from the starting team against England down to the bench to make way for Xander Fagerson. Johnny Gray is the second row cover, Jack Dempsey back row cover, George Horn reserve scrum half, Blair Kinghorn will cover 10, and then Chris Harris is the probably covering centres, maybe utility back there. Onto the Wales team then. So the backs for Wales actually remain unchanged to the team that played Ireland. So we have Liam Williams at fullback, Josh Adams at right wing, centres are George North and Joe Hawkins. Joe Hawkins was pretty impressive against Ireland. Rio Dyer on the left wing, Dan Bigger at 10 and Tomas Williams at 9. Into the pack where we do have some changes. So Wyn Jones comes into the team at loosehead. Ken Owens, captain, remains at hooker. Dylan Lewis stays there at tight head. David Jenkins comes into the starting team at 4. Adam Beard shifts to 5. Then we have Chris Tsuna there in the back row with Tommy Reffel and Jack Morgan. So Jones, Jenkins, Tsuna and Reffel are the changes in the pack. Onto the bench then, we have Scott Baldwin, reserve hooker. Reese Kerr and Leon Brown are the reserve props. Leon Brown coming into the side there. Reese Davies, possible debut off the bench. Talupe Falatau drops from the starting team down to the bench. So because he's on the bench, that's why Jack Morgan is there at 8. They say they're having a look at Morgan for possible cover there. Reese Webb then is the reserve scrum half. Reese Patchell comes into the matchday squad as backup 10, and then Alex Cuthbert keeps his place on the bench. So the likes of Garrett Thomas, Thomas Francis, Alan Wyn Jones, Justin Tipperick, and Dylan Lewis not Dylan Lewis. So the others I mentioned are out of the matchday squad, and Tupe Falatau is on the bench. Right, so let's have a look at the caps up for the two teams, so it's fairly even. In the back, Scotland 247 to Wales 388. The forwards, Scotland 300 to Wales 236. The starting 15s then, 547 for Scotland, 624 for Wales. And on the bench, 311 for Scotland, 285 for Wales. Totals, Scotland 23 has 858 caps and Wales 909. Now, in terms of Scotland, so as I said, we have Xander Fagerson coming right back into the starting team for them. Overall, it's a pretty settled team, which is going to definitely help in terms of combinations and things like that. They retained the Calcutta Cup last week. So now the question is, can they win this one to show that they are genuine title contenders? Because twice now they've beaten England and then gone on to lose against Wales in the Six Nations. Last week against England, they were starved of both territory and possession, but they still managed to find a way to win. Playing at home, probably going to have a little bit more of both, you would imagine, against Wales. But can they be as clinical as they were against England? That's going to be a big thing for them, because if it turns out to be a tight game, taking those chances the way they did against England is going to be crucial. They had the best ruck percentage of any team last week, 98.5% successful rucks for them. They only mauled once against England, which is easily the lowest of any of the teams in the first round. The line-out went pretty well, 100% there. Scrum, not so much, down at 71.4%. But then, they do have, some really informed players. Duhan van der Merwe in great form. We saw that wonder try, and his second try was pretty good as well. He has the most broken tackles from round one. And, a lot of them were probably in scoring those two tries. But surprisingly, Scotland have very few offloads, just 4. Given the way that they like to pass the ball and move it around, you would expect that to be a bit higher. And they are the team that actually kicked the most in the first round with 42 kicks. They also made the most kick meters too. So we got Finn Russell at the top of that chart there. But they made the fewest run meters in 388. But they had the second most meters per carry in 3.59. So although they didn't make that much ground running, when they did run the ball, they actually made more meters on average than other teams. They also, defense could be a key factor here, and they had the highest tackle percentage at 90.7% last week, so that's fairly impressive there too. I'd imagine, it's going to be, they're going to have to perform maybe even better than they did against England in this one. You might think, Wales were poor against Ireland, but it's just that kind of mental thing of, they've always seemed to slip up against Wales after beating England, that they're going to have to be on it to pull that win off. In terms of Wales then, they had a good 25 minutes at the start of the second half against Ireland, but they couldn't convert their pressure into points. And that's going to be something that is going to be very important for them in this game, because, again, you have Scotland, who had so few opportunities, but still managed to win away from home, versus Wales, who created all those opportunities and can only convert one. So if they're that wasteful against Scotland, they're probably looking at another loss here against a team who are in pretty good form. Alan Wynne-Jones and Justin Tipuric both dropped from the squad. We did have a thing earlier in the week, the HIA with Alan Wynne-Jones, where he wasn't available initially, and then they said that he was available, and they were saying it's to do with the different HIA protocols that he failed the first one, but then the second and third one are kind of more stringent, and he passed those, but still not in the squad this week, where Gatland is turning to more of the young guns there. Talupe Falte also dropped to the bench with Jack Morgan going in at 8 there. So, and it's a pretty young looking back row for them with Reffel in there as well. And Sunya as well beside him. So, and overall actually did drop the age of team a lot by bringing in a lot of young players with obviously less experience, but maybe just some better legs on them to give them a bit more zip. They made 4 changes altogether in the pack, so basically replacing half of the pack. They had some of the stats from last week may tell you why, because they had the worst maul success at 60% versus 100% for Scotland, even though Scotland only mauled it once, so it's kind of hard to judge them on that. But it's one of the areas that Wales definitely going to have to improve on if they're, you see a lot now, team score tries or get themselves in a position to score a try from mauls, so they're going to have to be better at that. Scrum success was slightly better than Scotland's, but nothing really to write home about. 75% compared to 71.4 for Scotland, but their lineout was the worst last week, 76.9 versus 100% for Scotland. So again, lots of areas for them to improve on. In terms of areas they might target, Finner and Russell missed 6 tackles against England, so that was the most of any player in the first round. Can imagine that Wales are probably thinking about sending Hawkins down his channel, but they wouldn't be the first team to target him in that way, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be a game-winning strategy to do that. Scotland know he's going to be targeted in that way, and they kind of set up in defence to cope with that. Gatland, though, he has gone with more new blood, but is it going to make a difference in performance and ultimately in the results? So do you think that he's made the right choices there, and is that going to show in the final scoreboard as well? In terms of Scotland, then, if they win, they really do have to be considered genuine title contenders, and there might be the odd whisper about a possible Grand Slam as well.